Welcome to the Teachers Talkin' podcast, hosted by Dustin and Ghazali Abdul Wahab. In this podcast, we discuss all things education and teaching, from innovative teaching methods to challenges to strategies and much, much more. In this discussion or roundtable-based podcast, we bring in educators from all around the world to talk about a variety of education topics so that we can support as many teachers as possible. We want this to be a place of inspiration, personal and professional development, and simply a place where we can elevate education together. Welcome to Teachers Talkin'. All right, well, welcome back to another episode of Teachers Talkin'. As always, I am Dustin here with my co-host Ghazali, and we have another exciting guest with us for today's discussion. So we are absolutely thrilled to be welcoming Faja Akbar, the ambassador of the International English Language Teachers Association for Indonesia and a dedicated educator. Faja is passionate about integrating technology into education and helping prepare students for a future that's driven by 21st century skills. And that is why in this episode, we are talking about preparing students for the work of the future as we focus on the overarching question, how can educators effectively integrate 21st century skills and technology to help equip our students for the future workplace? So before we dive into our questions, Faja, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, your background in education, and your work with technology and sustainable learning for students?
Okay, thank you very much, Dustin, and also Ghazali. It's really nice to be here. Finally, or I have seen a lot of your episodes, which were great topics. And yeah, I'm Fajar. It's easier to say. It's Fajar. I'm from Indonesia, and I've been teaching English and educational technology for quite some time, but I work for a non-formal sector education, so like language centers or training center instead of school or like other formal educations. And I've always been interested in educational technology, using technology in teaching, especially teaching enhanced language learning. It has been a great transformation to education, as I believe, especially since the pandemic, and now we have the AI and a lot of stuff. So I think it's a great topic to think about and reconsider what we can do as educators, teachers, and for education in order to better facilitate our students for the workforce, or let's say for their life.
So Fajar, let's dive straight into this topic, this interesting topic today. What would you say are the key 21st century skills that students need to succeed in the future workforce? What's your opinion?
Well, that's a big question. As we know, it has always been, I know, right? Though we have to see that in the reality, our students are, however, I can say, too burdened by school subjects and grades, scores, semester exams and other stuff. While we know that they actually need to prepare themselves for after school or post education. And in this, I have to say, ever-changing situation, especially with the technology, I would want to say, and I have to say that our students, or the students, schools, they have to be aware with the technology, not only using them, not only knowing, but be aware. Though they don't have to be expert in the technologies or things that can facilitate their life, but they have to be aware that now we have technologies which, to my experience and to what I witness, is still weakness in our education and also in our daily life here in my education context in Indonesia. Almost everyone, like students, they have smartphones, they have laptops, they have devices, they know how to use it for a thing or two. But what I don't see is that whether they are aware of the functionalities of this technology, especially for their life, not only for using social media, not only for browsing the internet, but literally to how they live their life using technology. That's what I would like to say. That's what I can say about the awareness.
So how would you say does this new this 21st century skills, how would you say it differs from what we have been doing all the while? What's the difference
Mm,
and what's the
mm.
emphasis and the focus? Where should we focus on if we want to do this 21st century skills?
I gotta say practicality and how. Well, here's the thing. Well, this is my educational context in Indonesia. We have talked a lot about 21st century skills and other stuff, but what I to what I see, it's still about subject matters. It is about, it's still about grades. It's still about the scores. It's still about how students can pass their exams at the end of their school year. Even though there have been a lot of training, there have been a lot of workshops, there have been a lot of, I don't know, curriculum adaptation to how teachers can actually promote 20% of the skills. But, when it comes to the classroom, it's just not what actually happens, right? Well, this is what I see in my education context in Indonesia. So it's about what I believe it's about practicality of how schools or education can actually facilitate students to know or to be aware what our 21st century skills are, and also how they can be a continuous learners. This is what actually, it breaks my heart, always breaks my heart as a teacher when I have a little conversation, a casual conversation with my friend, and then we talk about education, and then we talk about learning. And even like to those who are just graduated, maybe they are 18, maybe they are just graduated from their universities. And when we talk about learning, when we talk about education, when we talk about studying, it's very common to say, oh, I have enough with education. I have enough with studying. I have enough with learning, which it breaks my heart, like as a teacher, right? But what I would like to see is maybe we have to see other perspectives in these things. Maybe I have to say they are traumatized by how they went through education, went through schools, right? So it's kind of difficult whether we can actually realize how we can apply these 21st century skills at schools, or let's say formal education and in any form of education, if these are how the students, the ex-students feel about learning and studying. However, meanwhile, we believe that education, learning, or schools, it's meant to be for those who to prepare them to keep on learning instead of just finishing learning. So that's what I believe could be one of the most important point of the 21st century skills, to keep on learning.
I really appreciate that point, because I think that, as adults, we recognize that we are regularly learning every day. We learn new things all of the time, right? Like it's an ongoing thing. But you're right. Like so many of our students are so, I like that you use the word traumatized by their education, because, that's been so heavy on, assessment and test prep, and less about you using your brain to be able to do things, right? And I think even growing up, I know I hit points in my career where I was like, I hate school. You're like, you don't want to do that, right? But when you find those places, those teachers, those classes, sometimes even those schools where learning is just kind of part of the community and the culture, and when you can foster that kind of thing in a classroom, then like that's where students actually want to be. That's when they do want to go to school. I work at a school right where I work with kids one-on-one, and that's something that I see. I work with a lot of kids who were having trouble fitting in to the traditional school setting, high anxiety, lack of supports for their special needs, things like that. And just recently, actually, I was talking with my director about a couple of parents who came in, who she was talking with, who said, I'm seeing my student like I haven't seen them in years, because what you do in the type of setting where I work fosters this community in which kids actually look forward to coming to school, and they're happy when they're leaving school because of the things that they did while they were there, not happy because it's time to go home. So I just really appreciate you bringing up that point and kind of the trauma that kids have. And that's also a reason why education, we need, shifts within education. So knowing that these 21st century skills that are going to be needed for the future workforce involve so much technology, how would you say that teachers can effectively integrate technology into their classrooms to help the development of those skills?
It's a good one. Well, I would like to bring up the current trend where I've read recently, and maybe it has also shown up on your feeds, where some countries they go back to a more traditional and conventional way of education, where they put off the technology. There are these free tech schools and other stuff. But well, the technologies are here anyway, and I have to say that in terms of integrating the technology, we have already had a lot of frameworks. We have the SAMR and we have the TPAC and other stuff. What I would like to see from integrating technology is how we, or teachers or schools, and even the students, we see that, well, maybe it will be at that point in some day. We can see that the thing is that technology and integrating technology, using technology in the classroom, in education, it still feels like something special, which it doesn't, well, when something is actually integrated, it's not that special. It's already integrated. It's in it. It's within the education. It's within the learning. But now it feels like, oh, we are integrating education. We are integrating technology in our school, in our classroom. Which means it is still special. It is still a plus, which is, I have to say, not yet actually integrated, because it feels like a plus. It feels like something special instead of within the learning. So I have to say that maybe, or I will see that, we will see, I believe we will see the point where integrating technology and using technology is no longer a conversation, because it's going to be within the learning itself. It's going to be a part of learning instead of a plus, instead of something special, instead of something additional. So that's what I would like to see, and that's what I like to say. When it comes to really integrating technology, it means that it's just in it. We are learning using technology. We are learning together with technology, facilitating the students using technology, other stuff. So it's just a matter of time, I believe. But however, we can see that we are still talking about it. We are still talking about integrating. It means it's not yet integrated, because it feels like it's something special and a plus instead of within.
Yeah, that's definitely a very interesting point that you've brought up there. So I'm interested to hear about your Indonesian context or your Indonesian situation. How can schools or what challenges do you see the schools in Indonesia facing when it comes to this integration of technology and teacher training for the integration of this technology?
Well, there has been a lot of transformation, I have to say, especially since the pandemic. It's educational transformation and also education industry transformation. Like the school in Indonesia, I have to say, the education ministry is subscribing to Google Workspace for Education, which is a part of educational industry, an industry of educational technology. And some schools, so it's like they have their own portion. Like some schools are integrated or like a subscribe to Google Workspace for Education. It was Google Suites. Some schools are subscribed to Microsoft Education. And well, there have been a lot of transformation, starting from as simple as taking attendance, as simple as moving to LMS. Well, in my experience in my time, or maybe like, I don't know, my younger brothers, or even those who are still in school, back then, I didn't know any school used Google Classroom. But now I think it's everywhere. Not only Google Classroom, now they have Microsoft Teams and other third-party LMS, or commercialized LMS. And yeah, it has been a great transformation. And moving from papers to BYOD, like bring your own device, mobile-based assessment, like using Google Form, quizzes, Kahoots, and other stuff. Well, it has been a great transformation, but it's still seen as a plus. It is still seen as something special. Like not everyone can do it like that. And well, of course, there are a lot of what is it, contrasting points on. Yeah, it decreases the value. In as example, some are worried about how students can actually grasp, learning because they use technology a lot. And well, I mean, like it always exists, those kind of points. And in terms of again, the education in Indonesia, well, there has been a lot of transformation, just like I mentioned, and there has been a lot of disruption also, especially in terms of publishers. Okay, the conventional publishers like printed books, and now we have like digital publishers like digital media learning. Though most, of course, still need and use more conventional like printed books, like printed curriculums and other stuff. When it comes to the teacher training, now we have a lot of platforms, especially the one that I have been posting recently about the MOOCs, massive open online courses, self-paced learning for the teachers. And in Indonesia, we have this we call PMM or PMM in Indonesia. So we have emancipated curriculum, or in Indonesia it's curriculum merdeka, where teachers can learn anywhere. So they have platforms. They have a platform like a MOOC. Basically, it's a MOOC where they can take courses made by the ministry, or they can even produce courses for other teachers. Well, it has been going on for about 2 to 3 years now, and we have seen a lot of more communities, teacher communities, conducting webinars like every week, I can say, even every day, sometimes like every month. There has been, I don't know, maybe more than 100 teacher communities, especially on Facebook and LinkedIn. That's how technology has transformed education in Indonesia.
Wow, that's definitely a very fast movement within the past 2-3 years.
True.
I'm interested, how what's the reaction been to generative AI in Indonesia? How has it been adopted, resisted, ambivalent? What's the attitude?
I think the most common attitude is the anxiety, yeah, which is very common, right? The anxiety. Most teachers are still afraid that it's gonna be harder, more difficult to assess students, let's say cognitive, or let's say because most standardized assessments are, conventional standardized assessment, answering multiple choice questions and other stuff, answering question based on what written on their materials, which is of course can be bypassed by, not even, it can be bypassed by Google anyway, or maybe like, a search engine. They don't really need AI to bypass those assessments. And that's what the most teachers worry about the AI. And there have been a lot of webinars, of course, workshops, and even courses for teachers, especially school teachers, to be able to see the benefits from AI, or using AI, integrating AI, which is, well, I have to say it's going to be 3 times the work for the teachers in order to be able to actually assess students, because they need to, of course, revolutionize the assessment. They can no longer rely on traditional assessment, like only, well, it has been obsolete anyway. Like they can no longer rely on what is it, memorization and well, those kind of multiple choice options assessment, not even essay in this, because students are going to use it anyway. And on the other hand, the teachers they actually use the AI to create those assessment and assignments on the other hand. So that's the common problem here in Indonesia, which I believe is quite universal. However, there have been a lot of content, especially on Instagram. There are, teacher creators these days where they, create social media content on how to use AI to create lesson plans. This is actually something to worry about also, where teachers actually rely on AI, fully relying on AI, creating their syllabuses and lesson plan, even creating rubrics. You know, I'm afraid it's gonna be very misleading, especially this content on social media, like how to create syllabuses in a minute. Well, what? I mean, like how to create assessment rubrics in 30 seconds using Gemini as example. It's gonna be very, yeah, I think it's very misleading in some sort of ways.
You know, you were kind of talking a little bit about the trouble that students have with understanding the use of technology, and then here we are talking a little bit about AI as well, and just knowing that like AI is kind of a part of where we are now, and that's not going to go anywhere. But I think I also find that when I do work with students, they know how to use their phones to play games and scroll on social media. But then when I put them in front of a computer and ask them to type, they like can't even type. And so what I'm starting to find is that because of smartphones, the way in which our students are using technology is gravely different from the way that they will use technology as they get into the future workforce. And so thinking just about like that idea around teaching students how to like use their technology, how to effectively use AI, because like I said, that's not going anywhere, and like kind of bringing all that together. How would you say educators can actually ensure that their students are prepared for this rapidly changing world that is in front of them as they are getting into, you know, out of school and starting to move towards the workforce?
Oh, one word for it is fundamental. This is what I see. Most, I would say, teachers in this context and even students, some are missing the fundamentals of using the thing. As example, well, there have been a lot of, we can see a lot of contents and then courses and then training on using AI in creating this, creating that. Okay. But sometimes they miss the fundamentals of what is AI, why do we need to use AI, or do we need to use AI, and you know, ethical policy, and then other consideration. Those fundamentals are sometimes, or I have to say often, left out like that. Even in the basic of using technology. As example, we are using smartphone, our students have smartphone, but what is the fundamentals of using smartphones? Like, why do you need smartphones? How do we need smartphone? What for? How? Those are left out, like frequently, often left out. Though of course people want to have it practice, okay, like practical use, straight to the practice, no theory, okay, no missing the frameworks and other stuff. So well, I believe that strengthen the fundamentals of everything, especially in this case using technology in education, or even like using technology in our daily life, because technology will change. The AI that we see yesterday was great, but now it's even more, I have to say, ridiculously amazing, like that. Well, we were surprised that ChatGPT could write essay. Now we can talk with ChatGPT in real time, and we were, well, next week, well, maybe in 48 hours, but well, we can sometimes it's getting, you know, ridiculously, I have to say, difficult to catch up with everything, and I believe it will be even more harder to catch up with the practical use. But however, when it comes to fundamentals or understanding how it works at the basic, it would be what is it? It would be a sustainable foundation for both teachers, students, or everyone in using anything, especially technology. So I would say that it's very essential and important to step back a little bit and then to strengthen the fundamentals, concepts, or foundations of the technology itself. And then anything in it, as example, let's say, let's talk about LMS, Learning Management System. Well, we have Google, we have hundreds of LMS now. We have from Google, Microsoft, and other stuff. Well, I've been using Google Classroom, I've been using Microsoft, but if you, let's say, show me one LMS, like a new, maybe built yesterday, it wouldn't be that difficult for me to grasp, because basically it's an LMS. Well, they have, most basic concept of use. Well, they have attendance, they have lesson materials. But so that's the thing. If we catch up with the practical use, only the practical use, it's gonna be, restarting again and again. But when it comes to understanding the fundamentals, no matter what new things come up, it will be the same basic concept. That's what I believe.
So you're talking about these like basically helping to build foundational type of skills with technology. And I agree with that totally. So thinking along those same lines, what role would you say things like critical thinking, creativity, and problem solving are going to play in helping prepare students for future work?
We have been I have seen this from my context perspective. We have been talking about a lot about, okay, so in the future, or let's say now, we were talking about in the future about 5 years ago, I believe, or the future is now. Critical thinking, problem solving, communication skill are the skill of the future. Well, of course they are. However, what I believe, they are like within everyone. They have to be within everyone. They shouldn't be a plus. Again, they shouldn't be additionals. They must be, I have to say, within everyone. They have to be, they are actually the basic skills, fundamental skills that every student need to have. However, the misconception that I've witnessed so far, I have seen a lot of candidates, because I'm also working as an academic manager. So I'm also a user interviewer sometimes. I interview candidates. Well, they have very good communication skills. They have very good. Some candidates have very good communication skills. They can, express their opinions. They can actually introduce themselves and tell about their strengths, their weaknesses, common interview questions, and then, when we give them like problem solving questions, they can actually figure out how to answer them. But when it comes to basic use of, let's say, hard skills of using technology, they are missing out. Like as simple as using email properly, as example, or let's say using those doc or word processor apps in a basic basic stage. It's difficult for them. So I have to say that those 21st century skills, especially the soft skills, they have to be within everyone, every students, while also working on the hard skills. This is what I'm afraid that most students will rely on their soft skills while missing out on the hard skills, which they actually need to work to do the work. Okay, while of course they need those soft skills to communicate their work, but hard skills, they need to be, and they should be essentials when it comes to actually prove that they can do their work. That's what I believe somehow.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. That's the importance of knowing the fundamentals, right? Moving on to something that you mentioned earlier, you mentioned MOOCs. MOOCs are these massive open online courses, places like Coursera, edX, Udacity. I know you've taken so many MOOC courses. There's a debate now that maybe education of the future, this is the way of education of the future, where everything is like micro credentials. You learn what you need to know and you apply it to your area of work. What's your opinion about this compared to the current structure of higher education? You get a degree, you get a master's, a PhD, versus transformation towards MOOCs as a platform for education.
Yeah, this I really like to talk about that one. Well, once again, I'm going to talk in my
Yes, I know it's your favorite topic.
Well, I've done hundreds of MOOCs, I have to say, which is ridiculous, but most of them are free.
Yes. How do you get the time to do so many? You practically almost every week I see you're advertising a new certification, and you're advertising a new online course that people should go to. I can't keep up.
Yes. Well. That's, I think, that's where I, work on my day-to-day operation, while you're writing on AI review, I write on MOOCs review. So MOOCs picked up my interest since 2019, because how it actually opened doors to people anywhere in the world to actually learn high quality materials, contents, education from big organization, universities like Harvard, Oxford, Cambridge, things that when I was a child, when I was in, primary school, junior high school, senior high schools, we only, dream about it, learning from Harvard. People joke, like students joke about it. I want to study at Harvard, but now you can actually do it, okay, at your convenience anywhere around the world. And uh, 2 days ago, I read this article on LinkedIn in the UK, where I just cited this, or let's say paraphrase this article. The admission, especially for international student admissions, are declining in the UK, and and I think the article mentions, so whether it's a signal for higher education institutions in the UK to actually um, you know see or look on MOOCs as the alternatives when it comes to income, because as we know, they need to sustain, but with the declining of admissions, it's going to be very difficult. And as we see, well, back in the day, we knew Coursera, we knew edX, and now we have FutureLearn, but now we have more and more. We have institutions owned MOOC platforms, owned by the universities, owned by the organization, and then we have these MOOC platforms affiliated and partnered big universities and organizations. Even in Indonesia, we have privately owned MOOC platforms, and even we have our own. We have to say it's like an e-commerce. It's like Amazon for online courses, where you, Ghazali, I, Dustin, we can create our own courses, and then we can put our course on their platform and then sell them there, like that. So it's basically a transformation in education, which is I have to say, of course, I have to admit it's industrialized or even commercialized a lot. But on the other hand, again, it built, it opened doors, especially with more and more questions. Though I believe we have been talking about this concept for decades, whether university degrees are still relevant, which more and more jobs requires, I have to say, additional skills. So having a bachelor degree or undergraduate degree is just like a high school diploma these days. And more university, especially undergraduate graduates, they look for universal, requirements. So you don't have to be, as example, I have a lot of friends who graduated from education faculty, working as an IT, working as a marketer in digital marketing. How? Well, they took those online courses and MOOCs. So it opened doors, but I have to say that it means, especially higher education institution, they need to reflect on what these students or student candidates actually need, whether they still need those 4 years of education to actually, let's say, sustain their life, if not get a job. Let's say, do they still need these 4 years of education? Because what I see, what I witness, and I believe this is universal, starting from undergraduate study, higher education institution, still to this day, focus more on research. Though I believe that we believe not all students will be researchers. Not all students want to go to master degrees. Not all students, not all of my students want to go to a higher degree, becoming a PhD or an expert in their field, teaching in higher education classrooms. Well, a lot of them, or even most of them, the majority want just to graduate, sustain their life, and do what they like with their degree. That's what I believe that higher education institution need to uh, think or reconsider about everything. This is what I experienced, because a great fact, a fun fact about me, which is a surprising fact, I didn't graduate my undergraduate study. I had a 4 year of education, English education. I didn't graduate. I didn't finish it. I left my university without the degree. I published my paper, presented at conferences, taking TEFL certificate, and got the job and sustained my career. So I'm a living example of what actually happening.
Okay, that's interesting. So that means you are always constantly learning, and this is something that you've embodied yourself, lifelong learning, which is why you're promoting this as a 21st century skill, lifelong learning. How about in the area of international collaboration? What do you see? Because you mentioned that these MOOCs, right? The attractiveness is that anybody from anywhere in the world can take a course from Harvard, Cambridge, Oxford, and that's also been my dream. So I maybe will just drop by one of the MOOCs and take a course in Harvard, and I call myself a Harvard graduate with a certificate from a MOOC. But how do we, let's say you're Indonesia, I'm Singapore, how do you see international collaboration taking place? How can we do it easily?
Well, especially with the help of technology. Well, that's what is actually. Oh, that's what are we doing? That's what we are doing now, right? We are having international collaboration. I'm from Indonesia, from Singapore, and you from far away in the US. And when it comes to MOOCs, let's take edX and Coursera, let's say. So Coursera courses, they use peer graded system for most of their courses. So a lot of institutions use peer grade system, which sometimes can be annoying because you can see some participants submit, I have to say, irrelevant, because they think that the other participants would really take a look at their their assignments, which is annoying. And sometimes we have okay, let's go back to context. So this peer grade system that Coursera uses, it really supports that international collaboration, because I I got a lot of friends from doing those online courses, especially Coursera and Future Learn, because we have these discussion forum, and then again the peer grade assignments. Sometimes we have to reflect, and other participants will comment on your reflections and other stuff. And when it comes to a more complex MOOCs, they have online meeting sometimes, and they have group projects, though not all MOOCs, but I know there are certain MOOCs that uses group projects, or sometimes peer projects, where they need there will be paired with other participants to do some assignments, and that I believe opens those international collaboration. And that's what actually brought me to this virtual exchange, and then again virtual global collaborations, global classroom that I have been running for 4 years now, with more than 30 teachers, with more than 100 students joining every weekend. Well, once in 2 weeks. Yes, that we run them on Facebook, and that's where I met. Not only met, that's where we found and then established the International English Language Teacher Association. So we started as doing online courses together, and then we met, and then we discussed. So there are MOOCs who actually have their discussion forum integrated in their platform or within that platform. And there are these MOOCs where they have dedicated Facebook groups, or X, Twitter accounts, or even LinkedIn groups. So that opens a lot of doors, especially for, well, this is based on my experience. Learning on MOOCs can be very lonely, because you do your own assignments, you register yourself, you finish the course yourself, and then you graduate. So there are these groups which actually gather people who like to do or learn from MOOCs, and then they meet virtually, they discuss, they establish some kind of PLN or professional learning networks. That's what I experienced. That's what I witnessed.
What a fascinating conversation. So it's like kind of similar to some of the other conversations we've had, but then yet so different, because we really haven't talked about the idea of like building foundational skills for the future of work and for continuous learning, which is quite frankly why we all get into education in the first place, because we find ourselves to be, you know, lifelong learners, and we want to instill that skill into other people. And what I think I appreciate the most about this conversation is that we, at least in my experience in the United States, most of my career has been so focused on getting students through high school and to and through college. And it's been college. Yet I've always, you know, I've been this is my 19th year, and forever I've always said, why are we trying to push all students to college? Well, I mean, it's because it's about money, right? But college isn't for all students. For some kids, it's about military. For some kids, it's about you know, technical skills. For some kids, it's about being able to run their family business. For others, it's about, you know, entrepreneurship, and like there's just so many, all the baseline skills that you need for these different jobs are the same and yet different depending on what you want to do. But the real thing is, college is for some people and it's not for others. And now we finally, thanks to technology, have this opportunity of allowing people to learn the skills that they want to learn, that they need to learn to do the things that they want to be able to do in life. And it's much more free. And I mean free as in flexible, not necessarily financially, but also it could be more free financially and certainly less expensive than attending a four-year university. So I just have really appreciated this conversation kind of going in a really different direction as we think about how we support our students. So with that, Faja, is there anything else you would like to share before we start wrapping things up regarding 21st century skills, technology, and education, preparing students for the future of work that we haven't actually covered?
Yeah, to add to that, well, talking about the future of works, well, I have to deliver this message. Do schools, or let's say us teachers, have we actually seen the future of works? Have we actually seen the job outside of our world, which is education? Well, we have been in the classroom walls. We have been in the school, right? But have we seen the jobs outside of schools? And have we actually prepared our students for those jobs outside of schools, outside of universities, outside of higher education? So that's the message that I would like to deliver. So teachers, well, for myself, schools, kindly take a look, kindly see outside the schools, kindly see the jobs available, kindly see profession that will probably come up in the next 2 to 3 years with the transformation of technology. And again, about the MOOCs, about distance learning, about online courses. Well, before the pandemic, we didn't, maybe some of us have never heard about online meetings. We had never heard about remote work. But now, well, everyone wants to work remotely. If I have the option, I would, well, prefer to work fully remotely. And I believe it will be more, it will be a whole another options to actually work remotely. And we need to consider that whether our school or in-person classroom can actually prepare our students for those distance work, not only distance learning, and whether industries or jobs would prepare people to, candidates who have experience studying in person classrooms, or let's say studying online, to be able to work remotely. So we need to consider that. So that's the message that I would like to deliver for us, for me personally as a private teacher, and then for someone who in love with education and also the industry of education, to see outside the schools, to see what is happening, and to reflect whether what we are currently practicing is preparing our students for their sustainable life.
So a great ending, which leads me to wanting to tell our listeners, go back and listen to our episodes on self-paced learning, because a lot of what we talked about with adult learning here in this episode is about learning on your own. And here you are delivering this message at the end that, like, the world is changing and people are doing more from home. And that soft skill of, like, how do you manage your time when you are working remotely? How do you organize when you're working remotely? This is all about independence in work and independence in learning. And the more that we are going to continue to rely on traditional methods of teaching, the more that we're not actually setting our students up for the success that they need to have when they leave school. And so that just makes me say, like, hey, everybody that's listening, after you're done with this episode, go back to season 1, listen to our 2 episodes on self-paced learning, because that's actually really the type of model that we need to start seeing more and more people adapt, so that our students can develop not only those hard foundational skills, but the soft foundational skills as well for the ever-changing world that's in front of them. So, Ghazali, any final thoughts from you?
No, I mean, this has been a very engaging, eye-opening session as well. And I think definitely we learned a lot about this new thing called a MOOC. Sounds weird, but yes, I think it is part of the future of learning. It's probably something that higher educations can look at in terms of a hybrid approach to what they are doing in the institution right now. Yeah, so that's all from me.
Awesome. Well, Faja, thank you so much for joining us and having this discussion. It's been really wonderful. Ghazali, as always, thank you for being here. And to all of our listeners, thank you for being here and listening and being with us. Remember to share, like, subscribe, review the podcast. We are here to continue to support you. If you would like to be a guest on the podcast, check out the show notes where you can sign up to join us for this conversation. Remember, you do not have to be an expert in anything. You just need to be passionate about education. We're just here to have a conversation. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and we will talk to you next time.